Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love college football as much as I do. Okay, I'm here to talk about Ohio State football today. Ohio State did get a lot of good players in the transfer portal. I expect them to have another productive year, another double-digit winning season. I expect them to do very well. With that being said, let's talk about the schedule. First off, they play Akron and Western Michigan, both home games, and then they're off the third week. They should beat both of those teams pretty handily. I think Ohio State's defense will continue to improve. I think the offense will actually play better with a passing game. It's possible the running game will get better, but I'll talk about whether or not I think that'll be better significantly by the time we talk about the Michigan and Oregon games. But Akron, they should win 48-6. I think they give up 2 field goals. They might give up 1 field goal to Western Michigan. I think they beat both of those teams by 40 points or more. And then they're off. Then they come back home and play Marshall. They should win that game also 37-3. And then they go to Michigan State. That's where they open their conference play. Michigan State did bring in a new head football coach. I think he'll be a great coach for Michigan State. I can't remember his name. I know he coached Oregon State. He had a 10-win season. Then he had another 9-win season before coming to Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State has anywhere near the talent that they need to compete with Ohio State. They should win this game at Michigan State 45-10 comfortably. Maybe worse. Who knows? But I don't see Ohio State getting upset. And then they come back home and they take on Iowa. Iowa's going to be a tough game for anybody, and even Ohio State. That's just what it is. Unfortunately, Iowa, you know what they don't have? They don't have the offense to compete with a team like Ohio State. So with that being said, I think Iowa's defense will keep them in this game. Ohio State's line of scrimmage has been a problem when they take on physical teams. I don't think that changes very much this year. Ryan Day always keeps getting the best players. And I'm not trying to make fun of Ohio State here. I'm not, okay? Promise me I'm not. But what I have seen, not really with just Michigan, but when they've played teams like Notre Dame, they play teams like Missouri, they play teams like Georgia, and even Alabama, ever since Ryan Day has been there, they have a hard time winning the line of scrimmage and being able to play 4 quarters of football. They win this game. I think they pull away 27-6. I don't think Iowa's offense will be able to do much of anything against anybody. And given that Ohio State's defense is really, really good, especially with Jim Knowles, I think they pull away. I think they pull away because Iowa's offense won't be able to muster up anything. But Iowa's defense will keep them in this game. Iowa's going to be motivated. They're going to be hungry to beat Ohio State and really win big games like these, but they won't be able to. And then they're at Oregon. I'm going to talk about that game briefly because, first off, I'm not picking Ohio State to win this game. Dillon Gabriel is such a difference maker. He's such a monster at quarterback. The reason why they upset Texas last year at Oklahoma was because of Dillon Gabriel late. Think about it. Dillon Gabriel's the reason why they won that game. They were down 30-27 with not even a minute 20 left, and Dillon Gabriel led that offense down the field to score the game-winning touchdown, leaving Texas with 15 seconds, 18 seconds, whatever it was, not do anything, not come back and win. But that was amazing. I think he's able to do that with Oregon. Think about it. Oregon's got better talent across the board than Oklahoma. I mean, offensively, they might match up pretty well, but Oregon's defense has much better talent than Oklahoma does in the long run. I mean, Brent Venables, I'm not making fun of Oklahoma. Brent Venables has recruited pretty well lately. He's been getting some more blue chip players for the defense, so I think that defense will be better eventually to where it needs to be, but not at the level of an Oregon defense. So I think Oregon is able to outrun Ohio State with Dillon Gabriel. Their running backs are always really good. I think Oregon's defense makes enough plays. And Ohio State's defense, and again, that brings me back to Ohio State's defense this past year. It's not a full game defense. The defense plays pretty good, but eventually it ends up folding and then breaks at some point to where the other offense can one-up them and win. Now, Ohio State's defense won't let them get blown out, but I got them losing 38-31. Dillon Gabriel's a dual-threat monster. He's hard to deal with when he's healthy. And I think Oregon just wins because of the home field advantage. I don't think Ohio State's defense will be able to stop him from running all over the place with option play calls and other stuff like that. He's going to have their head spinning like he does every defense he plays. And I think Ohio State's offense won't be able to take care of the football quite well enough. If you look back at the Michigan loss, the Georgia loss, other games, they've had missed field goals. They've had dumb penalties. They've had problems protecting the quarterback. They've had turnovers. This should be no different. Give me Oregon to upset Ohio State 38-31. And then they're off again, a much needed bye week, but then they got a 6-game stretch. Listen to this. Nebraska, who I think is going to be better than last year, at Penn State, home against Purdue, at Northwestern, who's not a pushover, Indiana at home, and then Michigan at home. They beat Nebraska 37-17. I know Nebraska's in the right direction. I love Matt Rule as a coach, but I don't think he should be able to compete with Ohio State. Ohio State should win pretty comfortably, 37-17. I think Nebraska, the reason why I say they have 17 points is they're able to get some garbage time touchdowns, some points or whatever, but nah. Penn State, this is the game. This is a big game for Ohio State. They've dominated Penn State in terms of win-losses, but if you look at the scores of the game and how these two match up with each other every year, it's usually pretty tough, pretty competitive. Again, I'm not saying they're competitive in terms of they beat each other a lot, like it's some kind of rivalry. If you look at win-loss record, it's obvious Ohio State has had their numbers. They haven't lost to them in 8 years, but Penn State's not a pushover to anybody. And even as a Michigan fan, I can brag about us winning all the time. Penn State's been one of our toughest games every year, and unfortunately, we don't get to play them. I'll get in the Michigan schedule later, but Penn State very well could win this game. They should win this game. I don't trust Drew Allar. I don't trust anybody who plays quarterback for Penn State. If you look at it, Penn State could have won that game. I know we say could have, should have all the time, but they could have won that game if they had better play at the quarterback position. Penn State's defense kept them in that game. I think Penn State's defense is still going to be really good. It's been good with James Franklin regardless, whether it's been Manny Diaz or not. I don't think it might be a little bit of a step back defensively, a little bit of a drop back, but this much. I still don't think Penn State's passing game is going to be good enough to win this game. But expect Penn State's defense to be lights out again. It's a home field advantage for them. Give me Ohio State. I think they make better plays in the fourth quarter offensively. 21-20. They come this close within an upset. I think Penn State kind of lays an egg at the end and does what Penn State does. Anytime they play an Ohio State or a Michigan that's really good, they tend to fold on themselves and make mistakes and lose when they should be and could be winning these games. I don't think James Franklin overcomes that. Give me Ohio State 21-20. But I'll give Penn State a big chance to win that game just because it's home. And James Franklin, he has proven to be a really good coach. And don't get me wrong, anybody would like to hire this guy because he's a winner, right? But there's a reason why Alabama was not wanting to get him. They got Kalen DeBoer because Kalen DeBoer has won big games back-to-back years with Washington, and he has yet to do that consistently. If he starts doing that, he'd be getting those jobs like he deserves. And I think he's a great coach. So I'm actually pulling for him a little bit, Then they come back home to play Purdue, no problem, 33-3. I think they don't give up a touchdown in that game. And then they're at Northwestern. I think Northwestern's going to be a tough game for Ohio State. You look at them last year with a new head coach who hadn't coached before. They really, really impressed me. They won 8 games. They won the Las Vegas Bowl. They beat Utah, who was missing players. But Utah has better players than Northwestern for the most part. I mean, it sounds biased, but it's true. And Northwestern really didn't have superstars, but here's the thing I liked about Northwestern. They played really, really hard. They're such a tough team on the line of scrimmage. They were giving Penn State a problem. Penn State went on to win 10 games last year and make it to the Peach Bowl. They lost, but still, they won 10 games. They're a tough team. And Northwestern is, I think they'll be able to push around Ohio State a little bit. They did when they played a few years ago, ended up losing 21-7. But Ohio State had a tough time with them in the line of scrimmage. I think they will again, but because Ohio State's a more talented team, and I think Ohio State plays good and doesn't turn the ball over, but Northwestern's tough on the line of scrimmage. You look at all their losses, they lost to teams with better talent. And the thing is, they didn't really have good offensive line, like quarterback pass protection. They didn't really have a good offensive line in general, but their defense was tough and physical, forced a lot of turnovers, even though their offense wasn't anything special. Give me Ohio State 27-10. I think Ohio State scores a touchdown late to kind of pull away. This should be a low-scoring, tough defensive battle. You look for Northwestern to eat up a lot of clock and keep that ball away from Ohio State's offense, who has so much more talent. Look for that in this game. They come back home to take on Indiana. They should win that game 45-10. I know they have James Madison's new head coach, but I don't think he'll be able to make that much of a big difference in 1 year. Give me Ohio State big. Here's the thing, and I'm not about to troll Ohio State. I promise I'm not, as a Michigan fan. Michigan and Ohio State. And I know they've had side stealings, but look, let's face facts, guys. Michigan has not won because they knew their plays. They have won because they've been tougher, more physical, more aggressive, and have just been better than Ohio State at the line of scrimmage. When you're able to win the line of scrimmage, it makes a big difference in football, regardless of the talent. If Michigan is well coached and is disciplined like they've always been, Michigan should, and I think they do, beat Ohio State again. Look, that's great you got Judkins. That's great you got Travion Henderson. You know what the problem is when these two teams have played? Check this. Michigan has turned the ball over one time, whether it's an actual turnover or turnover on downs, in the last 3 years in this rivalry game. You know how many times Ohio State's turned the ball over? 6 times. Who's run the ball better in these last 3 games? Michigan. Who has converted third downs better in the last 3 games? Michigan. Whose offense has ate up more time of possession in the last 3 games combined? Michigan. And whose offensive line has been better? Michigan's. That is a problem for me, and that's the reason why I don't think Ohio State goes undefeated. Ohio State's running game has not been very good in the last several years, really since Ryan Day's been there, outside of his first year in 2019, because the run game has not been. Travion Henderson's a great running back. You let him go at Michigan or anywhere else with a really good offensive line that runs blocks pretty well, he's going to win a Heisman Trophy. He's really good. But the offensive line, look, and that's a big, and I look at the Missouri game too. I know they didn't have the quarterback to win that game, or Marvin Harrison Jr., but you guys had a great team regardless. Your defense won that game for you. Could have won that game. I'm surprised Ryan Day didn't go to more of a run-heavy attack and try to win the line of scrimmage. They could not do it. And I know Missouri's got a good defensive line, but it was not one of the better defensive lines in terms of athletes and power compared to other teams. It was not. Okay? So with that being said, I don't think Ohio State's run game gets much better because you got a good running back in Judkins and even Henderson. They're both elite running backs. But if your offensive line cannot block for you and establish a run game, look at Florida State when they had Cam Akers, who's in the NFL now making some money. That guy was great in college. You know why he struggled the last year he had? In 2019 against teams like Miami and even Florida, they had a good defensive line. You know who couldn't help him? His offensive line, who was garbage. I don't think Ohio State's offensive line is that bad. I think they're better than that, but it still isn't very good when it comes to run blocking. So in this game, that makes a difference. Michigan, again, if they're well coached, if they're disciplined, you don't know yet because Sharon Moore has never been a head football coach full-time before. But I also believe he was probably coaching that team for the most part. Think about it. Jim Harbaugh missed 5-6 games, right? Sharon Moore was probably coaching that team to a degree, more than just being a substitute coach or an interim coach, whatever. I trust him to not really do a lot for Michigan this year because of the drop-off in the schedule, but I trust him to beat Ohio State again. Think about it. And what I notice about in these games, Ryan Day does not like to go for it on 4th down. He likes to kick field goals or punt the football and play field position against Michigan. Ryan Day does not really, think about it, throughout the evolution of his career, he hasn't really changed much. He just keeps getting great players. He doesn't like to go for on 4th down. He likes to take field goals if he can. He doesn't take risk. Michigan, Sharon Moore has shown that he will do that. And I believe they do. Give me Michigan to beat Ohio State, 31-23. I don't think it's a blowout. Even if Ohio State wins, they can very well win this game. But I don't think they can. I don't think they do because, again, line of scrimmage, Michigan has won that. The turnover battle, Michigan has won that. Time of possession when they run the football, Michigan has won those 2 things. Again, taking care of the football that goes in the turnovers, Michigan has won that battle. So I think Ohio State goes 10-2. And again, it goes back to the fact that Ryan Day doesn't really do much different when it comes to coaching and doing things. Again, I think he went out and got great players. But again, that doesn't really change because he's been recruiting at a high level. And the players that he has now, I'm pretty sure they can match up with the guys he just got from the transfer portal. So with that being said, now look, Ohio State could very well go 12-0, but I doubt it because, look at the schedule. Oregon, Michigan, at Penn State. They could lose to Penn State too. So What's most likely to happen if my record prediction doesn't work? I think they go 11-1. They beat Michigan. They beat Penn State. They probably lose at Oregon. Worst case, I don't think Ohio State's going to struggle to make a bowl or anything like that. Worst case, they go 9-3. They could lose to Oregon, Michigan, and Penn State. So, but my final season prediction is 10-2. Again, the Michigan game goes down to the line of scrimmage. Michigan has won that. The turnover battle, Michigan has won that. The running game, Michigan has won that. The better offensive line, Michigan does that. When you have when your offensive line is beating the other team's defensive line, think about how Michigan won this past year. They did win a turnover battle, but look what they did. They ate up about 7 or 8 minutes in the fourth quarter just running the football down their throat, pushing them at will late in the game. Now, they didn't do that the whole game, so I'm not making fun of Ohio State, but that's what Michigan did. Think about it. Even when a first-year guy takes over, you don't really see a big difference unless that coach just isn't very good. I think Sherrone Moore's going to do pretty well. I don't know about being elite, but it's possible because it's not fair to say that because he hasn't done it very long. That's all. Not a shot to him. But usually that team doesn't change much culturally or play-wise, effort-wise, or any of that within the first year. It takes time. So I believe Michigan is not going to change much. I don't think Sherrone Moore is going to change much given Jim Harbaugh. A lot of that coach staff isn't there. I believe he's going to attack it with the same mentality, the same attitude because he was in that system for a long time. Unless I just don't see Ohio State changing much, if anything, outside of getting a bunch of new players. Sorry, but no.